Alright, guys, who broke the robot?
Hello, everybody. I'm a broken robot. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I like malls. I have many fond memories of going to the various malls in my home state, and on many occasions, if you're shopping in the right place and the right time, you can find some pretty good deals in terms of retail brick and mortar stores. Now, while robots like me love shopping malls because there is no other place on earth where you can eat a pretzel in a Best Buy while watching two e-girls fight over the last pair of cat ear headphones, most Americans haven't visited a mall in months. And while some malls in the US have reported record profits, nationwide in 2022, over 100 malls closed their doors permanently or had their spaces bought out for other purposes that are non mall related. Before we can talk about what's killing the American mall, though, let's talk about how we got here in the first place. The American shopping mall emerged in the mid 20th century as a response to the changing retail landscape. Prior to the rise of the mall, shopping was typically done in small independent stores located in downtown urban areas. However, as car ownership became more widespread and suburban development accelerated, consumers began to demand more convenient shopping options closer to home. The first fully enclosed shopping mall, named the Southdale Shopping Center, opened in 1956 in Eden, Minnesota. Designed by architect Victor Gruen, it was a revolutionary concept that brought together multiple stores and services under one roof. The mall was climate controlled, had ample parking, and featured a mix of anchor department stores, specialty shops, and restaurants for customers to eat as they shop. It quickly became a popular destination for both local residents and people just traveling through the area, and other developers across the country soon followed this model. In the 1960s and 1970s, shopping malls became more widespread, and many were built in the suburbs surrounding major cities. These malls often had a similar layout and design as other malls in the area, with large parking lots, anchor stores at either end of the building, and a central atrium filled with smaller shops and kiosks. They were marketed as family friendly destinations with entertainment options like movie theaters, arcades, and food courts. In the 1980s and 1990s, shopping malls continued to evolve, with an emphasis on luxury and upscale brands. Malls became more elaborate, with high end amenities like marble floors, elaborate fountains, and even art galleries. The focus on entertainment also continued, with many malls adding features like indoor theme parks and skating rinks. However, the rise of e-commerce and the changing consumer habits in the 21st century has led to a decline in popularity of shopping malls nationwide and worldwide for that matter. Many traditional mall tenants like department stores and clothing retailers have struggled to compete with online retailers like Amazon and Walmart. In addition, many consumers have shifted their shopping habits away from brick and mortar stores entirely and more towards the online market. As a result, in the timeline of the history of the American shopping mall, at this point many shopping malls across the country had to close or are struggling to attract tenants to this day. Some mall developers have responded by reimagining their properties as mixed-use developments, incorporating residential, office, and entertainment spaces alongside retail property. Others have focused on adding experimental elements like fitness centers, co working spaces, and restaurants to attract visitors. The history of the American shopping mall reflects broader changes in consumer habits and the retail industry as a whole. While the traditional mall concept may be in decline, developers continue to search for new ways to adapt and stay relevant in the changing landscape. The famous Mall of America takes the strategy of anchor department stores and cranks it up to 10, having fully operational water parks and ski slopes within their enclosed building. But this brings me to the main point of this video. Why are American shopping malls failing nowadays? The original idea of the mall was to bring back the concept of the open-air markets that would be found in town squares, but modernized. Mall inventor Victor Gruen was an Austrian Jewish architect that had grown to despise the urban planning of the United States and wished to revolutionize the way American cities were built. However, in his vision, the seeds of what would go on to ruin the American mall were planted. Victor's original mall layout did not reach his own expectations. Victor had invested $8 million of his own money when designing the first mall. He wanted this new type of building to revolutionize American society, and while he saw the importance of businesses, in Victor's original outline he wanted a gym, school, supermarket, post office, and an economy-sized hotel to be built into the mall, with none of the formerly listed features ever being added to the final building. Additionally, Victor's original blueprint showed that in order for malls to be as effective as he wanted them to be from a cultural and monetary aspect, malls needed to be built in urban areas. But from the 1960s to the 1980s, the majority of malls were constructed in areas removed from the urban environment to bank off the growing middle class that lived out in the suburbs. So this brings me to my conclusion. Why are so many American malls failing while others seem to be doing better than ever? Well, let me explain. The issue is that malls are no longer convenient or feel like a worthwhile experience to consumers. While the majority of malls that are still successful maintain profitable and in-demand stores, while also hosting a diverse number of services and restaurants, while also being able to appeal to both upper and the lower class, most dead or dying malls suffer from the three cardinal sins of American traditional capitalism: location, quality, and traffic. Usually, if one of these issues are in play, the others aren't that far behind. Location is the biggest issue facing the future and survival of the mall industry in America. As mentioned earlier in this video, during the 1980s it seemed like every small town that wanted to get their name on the map would use city resources to construct a mall in order to drum up profits for the local economy and to potentially open the door for future development. The United States has more retail square footage per capita than any other country in the world. This oversupply has led to increased competition among malls, which has made it difficult for some to stay in business. Many small towns located in the Midwest and Appalachian regions have pleaded with state officials to bail out or take over the mortgage of these mega structures that have, even 2 decades later, still been bleeding these towns of money dry. The issue is that as the divide between the upper and lower class has gotten thinner and thinner, many Americans no longer want to drive 3 hours to a mall that has half its stores closed when there is most likely a much nicer mall located nearby with most likely more stores and services than the previous mentioned mall. The mall boom of the 1970s paved the way for hundreds of malls to now sit abandoned or worse. Quality is also a huge contributing factor to why so many malls fail. As the big box stores like Sears, Macy's, and JCPenney's slowly march closer and closer to bankruptcy, malls are finding it harder and harder to find anchor stores to bridge the gaps. Seeing as the majority of big box department store brands either can afford to stand on their own like Target and Walmart, or can't stand at all like Kmart and Belk, many malls have found that once their anchor stores leave, the mall soon follows. A study done by Vogue Financial magazine found that malls that have at least 3 vacant retail spaces longer than a month are 60% more likely to be unprofitable compared to malls that can fill those retail spaces. Now consider that the average mall in America has 6 empty retail slots at any time. Kinda paints a picture of how malls are. A mall is much like a ship, and a vacant retail space is kind of like a hole, and I don't think I need to explain what happens to a ship once it has too many holes in it, do I? And this brings me to my final point for that matter. Traffic is the final frontier and usually the final nail in the coffin for most malls. Many malls simply can't bring in the foot traffic they did back in the 90s and 2000s, with shopping holidays like Labor Day and Black Friday becoming less and less important with each year to major retailers. Malls have had little success driving up foot traffic for their locations using gimmicks such as pictures with Santa or the Easter Bunny, or fundraisers. With the rise of e-commerce and online shopping, consumers have shifted away from traditional brick-and-mortar retail stores. Many shoppers now prefer the convenience of shopping from home, which has led to a decline in foot traffic for most malls. The aging of the baby boomer generation and the rise of millennials and Gen Z consumers have led to changes in shopping behavior. Younger consumers are more likely to value experiences over material possessions, which has led to a decline in demand for traditional mall retailers. Additionally, the 2008 recession had a significant impact on consumer spending, and many people are still feeling the effects of the recession. High levels of student debt, stagnant wages, and rising healthcare costs have contributed to the decline of consumer spending, both at malls and at large. The American mall is in a sort of limbo state where some malls can be highly profitable, whereas the majority of malls are not, for a multitude of reasons. While I personally like malls and the potential atmosphere and convenience they can provide, myself and many others see the writing on the wall and know that most likely in 20 to 30 years, 90% of malls open today will no longer be in operation. But what do you think? Do you have any theories as to why malls are failing? Have you visited or shopped at a mall anytime recently? Have you ever worked at a mall? Leave a comment down below and let's get this debate going. And with that being said, if you've stuck around this long, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Any support is greatly appreciated. Leave a comment down below for any kinds of videos that you guys want to see. And if you got more time, feel free to check out some of the other videos I've put out on my channel. Have a great day, guys. Drink some water and do your homework.